Welcome to Straight to the Point. What are some change management tools? Part 1 of 4. Change management refers to the methodology and the tools, as well as the approach used by project managers or other leaders within an organization to manage people during the life cycle of a change. Today we're going to be taking a look at what these tools are at a high level and why you would use them. However, we're not going to be covering off how to use them. If you're interested in how to use the tools, please check out our other videos as we'll walk through some detailed examples. 5W2H. This tool is particularly helpful when trying to write problem statements. Have you ever been in a situation where you and your stakeholders can't fully identify what the problem is? Well, by following the 5 W's of what, why, where, who, and when, and then followed by the 2 H's of how it was observed and then how often it was observed, you'll help bring your stakeholder audience onto the same page. SIPOC. This is a tool that helps understand the bounds of a given process. If you are mapping out a process and you want to know your start and finish point, as well as all the stuff between the start and finish point, this tool can help outline it for you. You start off by detailing out your suppliers, so where the process starts off from an external party, and then you identify the inputs, the process that's completed throughout the organization, what the output is of that given process, and then finally what's returned to the customer. An A3 is particularly helpful at communicating a process improvement or change throughout your organization. A3 itself is referring to the size of the paper. The intention of an A3 is that you detail out your objectives, your current state, your analysis of the root cause, action plan, issues, and implementation plan and status all on a single page. This communication tool is particularly helpful when you don't want to get into too many details, but you want to bring your group up to speed. The project charter itself is used to assign authority to a project manager. In there, the given authority to that PM is going to outline the description of the project, who their sponsor is, ultimately who they report into for the successful implementation, the customer value statement, why we're actually moving ahead, financial benefits, assumptions, constraints, and a few other details. Critical 2 is a communication tool that identifies what exactly is critical to your stakeholder audience. There are 4 components to it. CTQ, which is speaking about the quality, so in terms of what your defects and what your expected output could be, what is the success factor. Your CTD, which is critical to delivery, so this is around the timing. The CTC, which is referring to the critical to costs, which is referring to how much expenses and what the ongoing operations costs may be. CTH, critical to health, safety, and regulatory outputs for your stakeholders and customers, could also refer to your employees as well. You want to ensure that you're not overworking your employees or asking them to do anything that's safety or possibly endangering their health. A project selection matrix is used to help prioritize and rank projects as well as changes throughout your organization. The intention of this tool is to develop a scale and a weighting system for what is important to the organization from an objective perspective, and then being able to evaluate the multiple tasks or the multiple projects being proposed against each other. For example, if you were to have 5 changes throughout your organization that each sponsor is wanting to champion, you may want to create a matrix that outlines how important the cost, the resource time, the risk, and the benefits are, respective to each one. You'd assign a weighting to each one of these sections and then further be able to compare them against each other. So let's say, for example, that cost was the most important factor in your organization. If you're prioritizing it against possibly 2 other items, what you may find is that the cost is significantly higher for the other 2 items, which means from a prioritization perspective, they may not line up with your organization's goals. A Gantt or a Gantt chart is used to help communicate the expectations and timelines for a given change or project. The intention of the Gantt is that it's going to create a visual aid for you. It will detail out all the items that are required to implement, as well as a sequential order, meaning that if one item is dependent upon another, you'd be able to see that throughout your Gantt chart. It also has the expected start and end dates, the duration for each item, as well as the milestones. This is a great visual tool to help bring your team as well as your stakeholders together to understand what is going to be happening in which order. Change readiness assessment is typically used by leaders to assess their own understanding of their teams. What you'd be doing with this tool is assessing the following 7 components throughout your team: understanding leading change, creating a shared need, shaping a vision, mobilizing commitment, monitoring progress, finishing the job, and anchoring the change. What this is referring to is that you're not only leading the change and empowering your team to be successful at leading that change, you're also creating a shared need with your stakeholders to ensure that they're your supporters as well. Part of this, everybody should have an understanding of what that long-term vision is, so to have that single item to work towards. Once they have that single item to work towards, you want to ensure that they're committed to the change and they're working effectively on their own and independently, as well as they're finishing up the job, not only just starting it, but ensuring that they're seeing it through to the end. Anchoring the change is referring to your post-implementation benefits realized, ensuring that the process or the change that has been implemented and that adoption continues and the benefits that were originally set out through your change are being achieved. This assessment can be evaluated at all stages of a given change. Stakeholder analysis is a wonderful tool to help you understand which stakeholders you have at the table, as well as which ones of those are going to be your supporters and which ones are going to be working against you. This tool is typically not used throughout your whole team, but rather the project manager or the change lead is going to complete this assessment independently or possibly with the appropriate team members. The intention of this is that you would detail out each one of the stakeholders on a given change. Detail out what their relationship is to the project, what their engagement is, their acceptance, and their support. If you're finding that somebody is working against you and that they're making it very challenging for you to implement a new change, you're going to want to pay special attention to them. This stakeholder analysis tool helps put out all those names as well as all the plans that you may have to put in place to ensure that you have a successful change and the adoption and the acceptance of each one of your stakeholders. A RASCI model is almost a necessity on any project or change. It ensures clear responsibility and accountability for everybody involved with that change. It'll include those details at various stages from the start to the finish. Although it's a simple matrix, it does pack a lot of power behind it. Sharing your RASCI with all the team members to ensure they understand what they're responsible and accountable for will go a long way, as you won't have to micromanage or even manage as closely what their deliverables are. GRPI is referring to a matrix that's typically created by your project manager or your leader of the change. This is going to be assessing the overall team's health. And what I mean by that is not their physical health, but rather their health towards implementing that change. The GRPI will be created at various stages for your PM or your change lead to assess how well the goals are understood at the various stages, as well as how the team members understand their responsibilities, and then further how well those relationships across the team are working. Are your fellow team members working well together? Are they working with stakeholders well? Or do we have a couple of resistors that need to be understood and a couple of walls that maybe need to be taken down? A GRPI is just another tool to use during change management to ensure the teams are collaborating and working as well together as they should be. Communication tools are almost the most vital in every change management situation. Very often, communication is referred to as almost 80% of what a change manager or a project manager's accountability is. Ensuring there's clear communication with your teams as well as your stakeholders is critical to success. A communication plan will outline who the key stakeholders are, either by a group or individuals, and define what their relationship is back to the project, and also at what stages and how often they'll receive communications on the status of a given change. What this means is that if I'm a stakeholder on a project, I would understand from this communication plan that maybe every other Thursday or maybe once a month, I'm going to be receiving an update from either a senior business analyst, a project manager, or some other member of the team to provide a status update as to where the project is and if there's any barriers or any success stories that want to be shared. And we're done. That concludes this session. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you like what you saw, please click like. Don't forget to subscribe. If you also feel that there's maybe interpretations or if you have any other added notes that you would like to share about these tools, please feel free to leave them in the comments as well. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.